Get the latest local news, obituaries, police splatter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio today is Clinton Police Chief Ben Lowers. Good to see you, Chief.
Good morning.
Happy spring to you, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. You as well.
Knock on wood. I'm hoping today kind of turns that corner to where we're finally.
You know what? We've had a couple teasers here the last few weeks,
a couple
weeks, but no. You know what? As I tell people in this conversation all the time, we're reaching that point that at least if we do have these blasts of cool air and whatnot, they're not going to last long.
They're short-lived,
and so enjoying the time change, the longer days, the sunshine, the vitamin D, it's good for everybody. So,
you a golf guy? You gonna watch the Masters this weekend?
You know what? I am not.
Okay.
I'm not. I do like to play on occasion. I'm that go along golfer. If you play golf, I'd love to go along. But
you go for the cold drinks, probably.
Well, you know what? I enjoy the socialization part of it. I played last year for the first time in many years. But
nice.
And I'll tell you, real quick on that, I played with a group, actually Clint Lichtenwalter and another group with one of our vendors for the city over in Champaign. And I'll tell you what, the first 4 holes, I was actually surprised myself. I played really well. Hole 5 through 18 saved me several $100s because I was going to stop and buy some clubs on the way home. But those last few holes, I thought, you know what? I'm not ready for this.
You got humbled a little bit.
Yeah, I did. And so saved me some money. So it was a good time.
Nice. Hey, I tell you what, let's dive into it, Chief. You talk about the spring and those sorts of things. Let's start there if you don't mind. We've got, all the spring things going on. Prom's coming up. Folks are out more. With folks being out more, we annually talk about making sure your vehicles are locked, your garages, your homes.
We do.
Let's dive into that.
Tis the season. And I was actually just talking to the transportation director at the high school or at the school district here just in the last couple of days. And we talked about, the school year is winding down, but yet almost the busiest time of year. We got multiple sports going on. We got baseball, we got track, we got, we got prom coming up and graduation, while they're trying to wind down. It's such a busy time. And it is for us as well, as we're talking about the warmer weather, the longer days, things, a lot more outdoor activity going on, a lot more pedestrian traffic, motorcycle traffic, bicycle traffic, things of that nature. And we just remind people as they're coming out of those winter blues and getting outside to enjoy the outdoors, that they're cognizant about things around them. That pedestrian, motorcycle, bicycle traffic, kids playing outside. Something that I probably complain about we don't do enough of, but love to see those kids outside getting some fresh air, getting dirty, wearing themselves down, but with that, that pedestrian traffic at all hours of day and night, it's not as suspicious now as it is in the middle of the bitter cold winter time, but keeping those vehicles locked. We've been fortunate. We've not had a serious rash of car burglaries for quite some time. And we don't want to start that now. So make sure you're removing those valuables from your vehicles and keeping them locked. It's been some time since we've had an actual forced burglary to a vehicle, and we want to keep it that way. Oftentimes it is more so I hate to say a crime of opportunity because nobody's inviting a would-be burglar into their unlocked vehicle, but we do have individuals from time to time that are lurking out there in the middle of the night, and they're checking vehicles through residential neighborhoods, and when they come across an unlocked vehicle, they're taking change out of a console or a checkbook or a purse or whatever. So remove those belongings, those valuables from your vehicles, and make sure you keep them locked, keep them in well-lit areas if that you can. We love security lights and automatic lights that come on in the dark due to motion. The other thing that we always talk about, and I want to touch on because we have just experienced this just in the last week or so, but it is the increase in loose pets. We have a leash law in the city of Clinton, and we ask people with the additional bicycle and pedestrian traffic, those things are more noticed, and we're getting more calls about that when we have dogs running at large and things of that nature. So keep your pets contained and keep your things locked up. Kind of a broken record that we talk about every year this time, but this kind of becomes the busiest time of year for us historically. As people get out, as I say, kind of get out and start stretching their wings from a long winter.
I'll tell you what, somebody tries to not break in, somebody tries to get in my car, maybe they take the debit card or something like that. Joke's on them because there's nothing on it.
Wow.
And if they try to take the change out of the console, they might grab more dog hair than they will change. So, I guess, burglar beware,
good stuff,
if you will. No, and I want to parlay this conversation, Chief, into a larger discussion at a city level. Flock cameras have become a big talking point. The city has pursued these, started with Kiwanis Park, and found more utility for them in other places. What's going on here? What can you tell us?
So this discussion really started. It's something that we've been considering for several years, as this is kind of the movement in law enforcement investigative tactics nationwide. And we have been utilizing Flock. I mean, ourselves, the Sheriff's Office, Farmer City PD, all of your local law enforcement agencies have been utilizing the Flock system for several years in investigative tactics, while we have not had our own cameras deployed here locally. Just in a conversation we had yesterday, kind of a team meeting with our Flock representatives, there are 26 law enforcement agencies utilizing Flock within about 100-mile radius. Okay. You can't go more than about 30 miles in any direction of Clinton and not be captured on a Flock camera. Okay. But some things about that, so what kind of brought it to fruition is with the upgrade to Kiwanis Park and the investment that the city has made there. One of the things that they wanted to do from the very beginning, and I strongly recommend it, is to get that under some type of surveillance.
Just been so many issues there over the years.
Well, the thing of it is, when we started initially discussing, the remodel of Kiwanis Park, its mere location and its design makes it I don't want to say problematic, but somewhat challenging for us to be able to monitor on a regular basis. And so, unfortunately, the camera system, all that does is capture something after it occurs. Okay. But it is going to help us resolve those issues where we have vandalism and things of that nature, and hopefully deter it for the future. Okay. So really our Flock camera system kind of came out of that. I know the city looked at several different options for that, and settled on the Flock system. And of course I then stepped in and, hey, if we're going to look at the Flock system, let's look at it, broadening that a little wider than that, with some LPRs, license plate readers, or license plate recognition. And so we did. So we started looking at that, kind of asked for the moon, and I shouldn't put it that way, but, where I was at, if we're going to utilize the Flock cameras, it was my preference that we put them on all 6 entrance exits of state highways into Clinton. And so that's what we asked for, and that's been approved. And so, the city has approved a Flock camera that is, I don't recall the name of it, but it's basically a stationary camera that is live feed all the time at Kiwanis Park. The LPRs that will be at the 6 entrances into Clinton, all state highways 10, 54, and 51 on both sides of town, will utilize license plate recognition. And so what those cameras do, they're well, first of all, let me back up. Some of the discussion around the Flock cameras, I get it. And I want to put that information out there to minimize the misunderstanding of what they're capable of, what they do and what they don't do. They are, I've made some notes here, but the camera is a point in time capture at a fixed location. Okay. On a public highway. There's questions about, it's tracking us, violations of our 4th Amendment, different things of that nature. And many courts have held up that they are not. They're a point in time capture. They do not video. There's no facial recognition involved in them. When we talk about, quote, tracking, this camera does not track. It takes an image of vehicle characteristics and a license plate at a point in time capture. Okay. It's not tracking. It doesn't track speed. It doesn't utilize facial recognition, nothing of that nature. The benefits to us that we have already utilized through other agencies' cameras has been phenomenal, and I can go over some of those if we have time. Again, you're on a public roadway. It's not taking an image of the person, it's taking an image of the vehicle,
Mhm.
of the plate. We can connect them to what we call the hot list, the NCIC, the Amber Alert system, the Silver Alert system, things of
Mhm.
that nature, to where if a vehicle, let's say a stolen vehicle, a vehicle being tied to a wanted person or a violent felon, something of that nature,
Mhm.
enters our community, it correlates that plate through the NCIC system,
Mhm.
and it will send us a notification that that vehicle has been captured on our flock camera.
Mhm.
Um, a huge benefit for us in terms of monitoring when those folks enter our community or come through our community. Again, about safety of our community, and
Mhm.
so that's one way that they're utilized. You know, they don't track, they don't capture speed, they don't utilize facial recognition, simply captures plates and vehicle characteristics. It's a preventative tool, not a tracking tool.
Mhm.
Okay.
So what do you mean by that? It's a preventative tool.
It's a preventative tool. It is not tracking individuals. Okay. It is taking the images by motion.
Mhm.
Okay. We can then utilize that to do a search for a vehicle. It's not sending us every vehicle that's coming. Okay.
Mhm.
It is taking images of those, and then we can track that data, or I'm sorry, not track that data. We can search that data
Mhm.
to look for a specific vehicle that we're looking for.
Okay.
I'll give you an example and where this is utilized so often and where it will be such a benefit
Mhm.
to Clinton. Let's give the example of, and we've had this numerous times. We have a late night, early morning retail theft at one of our 24-hour businesses. Okay. We have individuals go into a 24-hour business and commit a significant felony retail theft. Oftentimes it's liquor. Okay. And they leave the area, and all we have is a maroon sedan. Okay. We can search then our flock cameras. Now that's just that they have entered or exited through one of those 6 areas. But anyways, we can then search that vehicle description. We're looking for a maroon sedan. Okay. And we might look for a maroon sedan. Let's say the incident occurred at 3 o'clock in the morning. We can search that. We're searching for a maroon 4-door sedan. Maybe we know the vehicle make and model,
Mhm.
but we don't have a plate number. But anyways, we can search that just by vehicle description. And we can search it here locally. We can search it in the surrounding cameras of those agencies that choose to share
Mm.
theirs with us.
Mm.
And we come across a maroon 4-door sedan left Clinton at 3:11 a.m.
Mhm.
Chances are it's going to also capture the license plate. Well, now when we can take it from just a maroon 4-door sedan to here's the license plate and here's who that checks to. Now we have a place to guide our investigation
Mhm.
rather than just looking for a random maroon 4-door that nobody seems to know who it could have been.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now we can tie a license plate to that through that search that may give us, the opportunity to track someone down to conduct an interview, whether a suspect or a witness or whatever else.
Yeah, and last thing on this, and we'll Chief, and we'll take a break here real fast. While you commit to, and I know this argument is probably going to be put out there, while you commit to this is how we're going to use it.
Mhm.
You mentioned other agencies may have access to your cameras, or they may have access to others.
So that's an important factor there. Okay. The data is ours. Okay. That is part of our agreement, part of our contract. The data that our cameras capture, that is our data. That's not Flock's data. They provide the hardware, the software, and the maintenance of them. Okay. The data belongs to us. We choose who, when, and where we share that information.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
And I can tell you just locally, as I mentioned, those, that 100-mile radius, some of those agencies are very forthcoming with sharing that. They allow us to access
Mhm.
their data. Some are not.
Mm.
Every data inquiry requires a legal justification to search that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And we have to input that. It's tracked by user.
Mhm.
It's tracked by the means or the reason for that search. Keep in mind, we have access to many law enforcement resources that are law enforcement sensitive, law enforcement only.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Our Secretary of State information, our leads information, our NCIC information. We use an investigative tool called TLO that tells us so much about any individual. we can't utilize those for recreational purposes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a legal, lawful, investigative justification behind those to use those.
Mm-hmm.
Flock is no different.
Mm-hmm.
We will track those things. Flock tracks those things. We will track those things.
Mm-hmm.
There's also an audit tool. So I can go through and I can see who has searched and what they've searched and why they've searched.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's certainly accountability tied to it, but I understand, in a world that we live in today, the public trust, we want to be very transparent about what this system does, what it doesn't do, how it will be utilized, how it's justifiably utilized.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. And we want to be transparent about that. It is a tremendous investigative tool for us. People talk about, it's just more tracking. Ladies and gentlemen, anybody that carries a smartphone, you're being tracked more by that than we can ever track you anywhere else. And again, the flock system is not a tracking tool. It's a point in time capture of an image. It's the difference between, because I've heard this argument, well, why don't we just utilize the private cameras? We do. You are on camera nearly everywhere you go. Okay. That is not an invasion of your privacy. When you're in, you go into a business, when you drive past people's homes, I mean, you are being captured on camera. The difference with Flock or these LPR cameras is it's capturing that, it's running the plate, and we can tie them to the NCIC system in the hot list so that it then notifies us when one of those hot list vehicles comes into our territory.
Sure.
We'll get into it, how we've already utilized it and how it could have been utilized in investigations where it wasn't available to us before. So.
Sure. Well, maybe we'll dive into that in our next visit in May. How's that, Chief? Very good. Clinton Police Chief Ben Lowers in studio with us. More to come with the Chief on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Wednesday. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network. Corn, beans, and wheat starting the day lower. May corn down 4 1/4, 4.44 3/4. July corn down 4 3/4, 4.55 1/4. New crop December 4.72 3/4, down 5 1/4. May beans opening 11.56 1/2, down 1 3/4. July beans down 2 1/4, 11.72 1/2, and November new crop down 4 1/4, 11.46 1/4. May wheat opening 5.78, down 20. May KC wheat 5.90 1/4, down 17 1/4. May bean meal 313.80, up $2, and May bean oil 67.44, down 228. Energy market, June Brent crude oil down 18.27, $91 even. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
This is it.
Baum Chevrolet Buick offers full transportation options while giving you peace of mind. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. This is what we do every day. We listen to you, give you options for routine maintenance, major mechanical problems, or collision repairs with a staff that's knowledgeable to find the best option for you. Baum Chevrolet Buick, your full service dealer. See us at baumchevybuick.com right from the start.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio, Clinton Police Chief Ben Lowers. And Chief, as we come up on May, prom a little earlier this year in Clinton. In fact, just a few weeks away. Let's talk prom.
Yeah, Saturday, April 25th at the Clinton High School. Our prom's taking place. The Grand March late in the afternoon, followed by the prom at Clinton High School. So an exciting time for our upperclassmen of Clinton High School. And, as I talk about generally that, one of those occasions that we experience in high school, that lifelong memories and things that you'll talk about at class reunions for years to come. So we want to make sure that everybody's responsible and makes good choices to make sure that that has a positive lasting effect moving forward. So, obviously the basics of saying no to alcohol, drugs, and unwanted behavior. Don't drink and drive, and don't get in a car with anyone who has been drinking or using drugs. Wear a seatbelt every time, no matter how short the trip. Make sure that parents and guardians know where you are at all times and in case of an emergency. Call a parent, guardian, or someone you trust in case plans change or you need help. We strongly recommend that you make plans in advance. And in an occasion like this that is so important and so designed, to make positive memories, make a plan. Have a plan of what your day and especially your night's going to consist of, where you're going to be, who you're going to be with, and make that known to folks. Hey, I was 17 and 18 one time too, and maybe that's the last thing you want to do, but it's so important. Someday you'll be in my shoes as a parent and go, now I understand why my parents wanted to know where I was at and what I was doing. But going to prom is an exciting event in your life, so keep it fun, keep it healthy, and I just can't stress enough to make sure that we keep it safe so that those memories don't ever have a black cloud tied to them. Safe driving, we certainly recommend that while prom can oftentimes entail late nights and all night events, we certainly recommend that you again make a plan, be somewhere and stay somewhere. Whether we're talking about New Year's Eve, prom, things of that nature, it's not only you on the road. And as the night progresses and we get to 11 o'clock, midnight, and after midnight, the risk of safety, the risk of injury increases out on the roadways. It's not just you can't account for the condition of the other drivers too. So we want to minimize that, make a plan, stick to that plan, be somewhere safe, and certainly make positive memories.
Very good. Well, on that note, Chief, I got about a minute left with you. Anything else coming up this spring you want to highlight?
So the same day on October 25th from 10 to 12 as the National Drug Take Back Day, we'll have curbside pickup available at Clinton Police Department. Again, reminding people that we do accept unused and expired medications at the police department 24/7, 365. But on this particular National Take Back Day, we're partnering with the health department and our local ROSC program, and we will have a curbside pickup in front of the police department at 118 West Washington Street.
All right.
Come by, collect those medications, get them out of the cabinets so that we can get them safely disposed of.
Very good. So put that on the calendar, April 25th. It's prom and take back day. Very good. Chief, always good to see you. We'll see you in May.
Thank you, Seth.
Very good. Clinton Police Chief Ben Lowers in studio with us. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Network news on the way.
WHOW.
The Big 1520, WHOW Clinton.